And first up, I have Mr. Wayne Thring of the ACDP. Sir, thank you so much for making your way through the storms to be with us this morning. I know the House only sits at 7 o'clock, so we appreciate you coming in this early. Sir, the ACDP, is there anything specific that you want to hear? I mean, your colleague Steve Swart said something so profound, I think, in the police debate the other day, because lots of people were complaining about we don't have enough police on the ground, and Mr. Swart said something along the lines of each South African actually needs to be able to police him and herself through self-control and to take care of the environment around them. Is there anything on, I know police isn't your portfolio, but is there anything specific in the criminal justice system that you would like to hear the President speak about today?
Well, certainly I think that of the many things that we would like to hear the President speak on, one of them is actually the issue of crime. And I think with the issue of crime, many of our communities, whether you talk about the community that I serve in, which is the Marinridge community, you went with KwaMashu and Tuzuma, you talk about the Cape Flats areas which are riddled with crime and in particular drugs. We would like to see a concrete plan in terms of how the President would want to and how the President is going to address the issue of crime and particularly drugs that is so pervasive within our communities and how that's going to be addressed. Many of the communities actually feel captive. They feel captive by those who are peddling drugs, captive by some of the police whom they tell us are seen to be collecting from the drug lords themselves and are in a sense complicit to the deaths that take place and the many homes and lives that are actually destroyed. So I think that we want to see as the ACDP a concrete plan from the President in terms of an overall, how are we going to address crime, bearing in mind that over 70 people are murdered in South Africa every day. Over 130 women are raped in South Africa every day. So our crime statistics is not something for us to be smiling about. In fact, we should all be hanging our heads in shame because of the horrendous crime statistics that South Africa actually has. So I think very clearly crime is one of the key aspects that the ACDP would like to see the President address. But I think secondly, and perhaps also just as important, is the aspect of the economy. In our looking at our 2.3 trillion budget that we have, national budget that we have a deficit on that budget of some 300 billion rand. But also bearing in mind that we have a debt to GDP of some 74%. That debt to GDP is over 5 trillion rand. Another 300 billion rand deficit added to the 5 trillion rand. What is being created is generational debt. So South Africa is actually heading for a fiscal crisis. South Africa, the current government has actually overborrowed, and they are creating what the ACDP calls generational debt for our children and our grandchildren. This is unacceptable. And so we would like to see the President speaks very often about reforms and structural reforms in order to get the economy going. But in the view of the ACDP, that has just been lip service. We would like to see the practical implementation of structural reforms. What structural reform actually says is look at the current policies that government has. Are those policies working? If they are not working, change them, reform them. That is structural reform. And in the view of the ACDP, there are also some of the race-based policies that some of your institutions like Cambridge who have indicated that our race-based policies in South Africa are actually a hindrance to economic growth. And so looking at the challenges that we have, so one is, the second is the economy. So we're looking at crime, we're looking at the economy. And then I think we have a challenge with regards to unemployment. On the score of unemployment, we have some 32% of South Africans, 32.9% of South Africans unemployed, 41% on the expanded definition of unemployment, and we also have 44 up to 50%, depending on whose statistics that you actually believe, of youth unemployment. Is completely unacceptable. We have one of the highest unemployment rates in the world, with the highest Gini coefficient, inequality rate, also in the world. And so when it comes to structural reform and reform-based policies, the ACDP would like to see some concrete ideas on what the President is going to do in terms of these structural reforms. I think in addition, We are also seeing, we've been busy with our debates within the committees, and almost every committee is complaining about budget cuts. And budget cuts also now speak to, and the budget cuts are because of South Africa's over-borrowing and this deficit that we have and the debt to GDP of over 5 trillion. And now we are paying the price for the ANC's over-borrowing, and budget cuts and austerity measures are being put in place. So this is going to impact service delivery, and it's going to be interesting to see what the President is going to do in terms of the Cabinet in overcome the challenges that we have with regards to austerity measures.